I guess I remember my first day of the MTC getting my plaque, and that was freaking awesome. It was like the happiest day of my life. I ran out, like we drove up with my family, and my family was just like, you know, kind of maybe a little bit sad. I don't know. I wasn't even thinking about it. I just like super stoked to get out there and to the mission, and just ran out the door and forgot to give him a hug. Ran back, gave him a hug, and then ran back, got my plaque, and it was super exciting. My first day. And then the next morning I woke up and felt really tired. And and that's about how the rest of my mission was feeling tired. But I guess first day of my mission in the field, I don't feel like I have memory of it. I feel like it was just a big blur, and we were traveling for like 40 hours. I just felt like it was a big dream, and something weird was happening inside my brain. But that's all I remember, really. So just traveling a lot and being really tired, and at the same time just really excited and anxious. I mean, obviously everything's in a different language, so that's something. And then bus stations were different, double-decker buses. Those were fun. Getting there, when we were driving from Buenos Aires airport to the bus to where we were going to go to meet all the other missionaries at MTC. That was an experience, just driving along and seeing smaller living circumstances, and just a lot more humble, I guess, living circumstances, just along the road even. So that was, it was eye-opening to me at first, and that's what kind of caught my eye at first, and then later I saw even more of that. But so Cordoba is just right in the center of Argentina, just the heart of Argentina, they called it when I was there. And my mission in Cordoba also covered La Rioja and Catamarca, which were a little bit north of Cordoba, northwest. And yeah, it was about 15, probably like 10 hours distance, 10, 11 hours from the top to the bottom, in bus. So I got to do that quite a bit. And yeah, I think the church there is about 80 years old, I want to say, in Cordoba. We met on my mission just a couple of the first pioneers of the church there in Cordoba. One of them was alive while I was there, like one of the first members, and then died while I was there. And that was kind of cool to see just how much the church had progressed from a couple of members to, thousands. And it's really cool. Right now, the church is just expanding a ton. While I was in my mission, towards the end of my mission, the whole emphasis was based on baptizing families, getting priesthood holders to the men to come and for them to baptize their families, which basically gave both a lot of growth in numbers as well as in retention. So it was really cool to see that growth to the point where now the Lord has just been preparing everybody there for the temple, which is being dedicated in May 17th, I believe. So yeah. It's really neat to see that growth and how the Lord has prepared both the people and the surroundings and everything, the circumstances for that sacred house of His. So, for example, my first area that I was in for 6 months, it was a branch of about 35 people or so. By the end, there was like 120 in the same branch. My second area, there was about 5-6 people in the branch. We met in a mortuary, so that was a little bit different. And that was pretty small. And then I went to a ward in Cordoba, and it was good 120, 150 people. Pretty big church. So downtown, like in the city, there's a lot more people, big wards, and then outer, like La Rioja, Catamarca, it's a lot more small branch-wise. So Cordoba in itself, I felt like could have been a different country from the rest of Argentina. Like La Rioja and Catamarca were pretty similar, but Cordoba is just like super unique. First of all, in the language, I was so used to being I was in a whole different part in Catamarca and La Rioja my first year of my mission. So going to Cordoba, I just felt like I was learning a new language because they talk with like a crazy accent, just like super sing-song, like Cordoba no sabe, like this like crazy like accent that's really unique, and I love it. And so that was obviously something really different, was the language. Not only is it a different language in Cordoba, like in downtown, but they also have like their own music. It's this type of cumbia cuarteto that's comes from Cordoba. La Mano Jimenez, he's like the starter up of that. So you always hear the same songs going in the street, and just like it's really unique to Cordoba, those songs alone. So yeah, it was very unique in that way, the culture. Food wise, they have empanadas Arabic, which I guess they don't have in other parts of Argentina, at least what I've known from other friends who've gone there. But there are these triangle empanadas that are cooked with, the meat is cooked with lemon juice instead of heat, so that's kind of cool. They're super good. Loved the food there. Loved the people. I was expecting when I went down there for them to be, I guess, a little more Latino looking, but they're all from Italian descent, so that was interesting. So transportation between the provinces was always bus, double-decker bus, which is great in many ways, besides when the air conditioning didn't work or the heat was strong. Weather-wise in Cordoba, it would rain quite a bit depending on the spot, and when it rained, it rained downpour, and so it got flooded the streets. That was really fun at times. I loved going out in the rain. Big storms. One of my areas, Belleville, there was this huge storm. Huge, like probably 5 foot in diameter trees were just knocked down into the street. So that was kind of cool. Weather-wise, up in Catamarca, never saw rain for 6 months, besides once when it rained quite a bit, but very small amount of rain. It's ridiculously hot there. Got like 53, 54 Celsius, so probably like 120, 130 Fahrenheit. So that was fun. I was there in the summer, and then La Rioja is the same way. It gets pretty hot up there. Cordoba is a little more mild, but definitely kind of like Utah. It's kind of just like really hot in the summer, really cold in the winter. But yeah, it varied where you were in the mission. So downtown Cordoba, it was a little more wealthy than, say, La Rioja or Catamarca. Wealthy as in, like, I don't know, a little bigger of houses is in like more than one room. So, but like out in La Rioja, houses I usually were about 10 feet by 10 feet, cement, just cinder block houses. And they usually paint them pink or green or yellow or blue. Same, just cookie cutter houses. They're called manzanas. Like they had like little blocks, and all of the blocks were called the same thing. So there's not really any direction or maps. It's kind of just like based on little, spacing on the word, but just that, I don't know, like locations or people. Somebody would just say, oh, where the fat lady lives, or where that dog is, when there's thousands of them. So that was kind of interesting, direction wise. But mostly, yeah, just cinder block houses, smaller. We did a few losas roofs while we were there. You just throw up cement to the second story, and you just dump it on, and it's just these cement houses. So most of the people, I'd say, like the biggest work down there is construction. Most everybody builds their own houses. That's what I saw. It's construction, little, maybe some food, like most of it is construction or kioscos, which they have like these little like markets inside of their house, outside of their garage, or not garage, but just outside of their front door, where they just sell a bunch of food and necessities, lighters, things like that. So I guess like the population is somewhere around 1.5 million, I'd say, in downtown great majority obviously lives in Buenos Aires, but Cordoba is the second biggest city in Argentina. Once again, like it's known for its cuarteto music and its accent, crazy accent. It's a beautiful city. A lot of medical stuff down there in Cordoba. So I mean, and there was a few universities, even La Rioja or Catamarca. Like there's small ones all over the place. So that's great. It's free to go to, which is nice. Cost of living, if I remember right, I think it was about 400 pesos a month or so. So be when I was there, it was about 4 or 5 pesos to $1. So about $100, $150. So I started out my mission in La Rioja, como se dice, like in up north in La Rioja, and it's normally you pronounce it La Rioja, but there they say their R's, the first R's or double R's with a sh, so it's like La Rioja. In La Rioja, los perros corren muy rápido, instead of in La Rioja, los perros corren muy rápido. So it's like this, like sha 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 sha, like crazy. And in my last area in Chamical, which is part of La Rioja, they just had like this like southern drawl that was kind of cool. It was just like está por otro lado, and like this kind of like just like hick feel to it. Which was super weird. After being out for almost 2 years on my mission, I could barely understand them. So that was fun. So after that, I went to Catamarca, and it was a little more normal, I guess, Castellano. But then after that, after another 6 months in that, so after a year, I went to Cordoba, and I was like learning a new language, and it was just crazy accent, like I mentioned earlier, just the bienvenido a Cordoba, just like this, like hey negro veniche, like this like crazy like sing-song accent. They were just like this kind of like I don't know, Cordobese. There's no other way to explain it, but yeah, just crazy cool accent where it's just kind of like they drag out, I believe it's the second vowel, so like Cordobes and like Nasaya, like just like these kind of drawn out vowels. That's really fun to imitate. Not that I can do it anymore, but it was fun. I'll have to go back and relearn it.
What was one of the most exotic foods you had in Argentina?
I had a couple. So my last couple days with one of my favorite families, we had something called a guatiada, which is just they get a cow head, wrap it in tin foil, make a hole, bury it about 10 feet deep in the hole with some ashes, throw it in there, bury it again, and let it sit for about 36 hours. Unbury it, pull it out by a string, and you just eat it. You eat its face, you eat its tongue, you eat its eyes, then you get a spoon and going through its eye sockets and its brain. So that was lucky. I got to eat that my last day and felt great. They also ground up a donkey, completely everything in it, and made a soup out of it. So that was kind of okay at first until they told me what it was, and that was frightening. But other than that, like the food was awesome. But yeah, that was definitely the most exotic thing I ate. The tongue of the guatiada was amazing.
What was one of the most crazy or dangerous experiences you had?
I mean, there were obviously a bunch. Like just walking through some of the sketchier parts of town. That was always fun. With we got rocks thrown at us, or I had our bikes stolen from us quite a bit. People would come up with, weapons or whatever. I think one of that storm that I told you about earlier, that was pretty intense, scary. Just flooded everything, including the church. And then I got hit on my bike a couple times I got hit by a taxi driver, full on, somehow survived. Angels just saved me. I front flipped over the taxi. Was just going probably 40 miles per hour on my bike that didn't have any brakes. And we collided head on with a taxi and just flew over it and was totally fine. Ran up and caught the bus because we were already late for the bus. So that was great. Got bit by a dog. Got pooed my pants, all those kind of fun things. Yeah, I got nicked by a bus too when I was driving. There was a lady on this side walking her dog, and a bus coming on this side, and I was right in the middle, and there was no room, and so I had to either choose to get hit by the bus or hit the lady with the dog. So I decided both at the last minute, and so bus hit me, clipped me on the shoulder, swerved into the lady, hit the dog, and we got wound up. She eventually came to church, so great. I don't know if she got baptized, but she was great. That's probably, some of the funner moments.
That's funny. What was one of the most spiritual experiences you had on your mission?
Obviously, some of the most, I would have to keep personal and sacred to me just because they're so important. But some of the best, most spiritual moments were the thank yous from the people who came to Jesus and made covenants with him. There was one lady who I gave a Book of Mormon to that was sent from my home ward. Guy wrote in Spanish from the home ward, sent it to me, a hardcover. I gave it to this lady on the street, didn't know her, and she took it, gave her my number, didn't expect much of it. She called me the next day and said, hey, Elder Hughes, I've read through Alma. I know it's true. When can I get baptized? And it was just a really cool experience. The power of the Book of Mormon. And then the coolest experience was when she was in the font 3 weeks later, and she just looks at me and says, thank you. Thank you for introducing me to Jesus, and who has helped me have so much more peace and unity with my family and love in my life, and made me feel so secure. And it's just this big thank you. That was probably the most spiritual moment. Moments that happen multiple times is just those thank yous and the gratitude of the people when they get to know their Savior. So,
what was a funny language mistake, if you can remember?
I used the word for when I was wondering about a top. Somebody had a little top, and I used the word pedo, which is fart, and I was like, hey, do you have one of those? And the kid's like, what are you talking about? And so that happened a couple of times. It's the tradition in my mission to always say, the first meal, if you have a gringo companion, the hijo you're training, then you always tell them to say, gracias hermana por la porquería, which is thank you, sister so-and-so, for this crap of a meal. And so the gringo thinks it's the new missionary always thinks it's something that's courtesy and nice, but it's really not. So that's kind of fun. I did that. My trainer did that to me on a few occasions. So that was fun. But there was a few with language. But
what was one of the greatest life lessons that you learned?
There were many. That's what the mission was good for me, is that it, before my mission, it was all a belief or something inside my head, but the mission made everything something real and an experience that became part of my heart, that connected my brain to my heart. So almost everything, was a life lesson to me by experiencing it. I'd say the greatest lesson was that I was my potential. When I got to that point of consecration for a few months on my mission, and finally saw what I was capable of through God, by relying completely on Him. That's probably the most amazing thing, just seeing my potential and then seeing that in others, realizing others aren't robots and perfect. Just being able to accept others and accept Jesus. It's probably the most important lesson.
What was an ability or skill that you gained or developed as a missionary?
I learned how to cook rice really well. We cooked rice every single day. Just because we didn't have much else to eat, especially in the areas where there's no members. So got really good at cooking rice. Learned how to breathe steam out of my mouth. Learned how to throw pennies in a cool way. So these are all like very important skills that I learned at my mission. But I mean, besides that, I also learned a ton of like more real life skills, like leadership skills, what it takes to be a true leader. I mean, that I've learned that so much from my mission president. He was, I mean, the greatest leader I've known as a real person. So, I mean, that was incredible skills on how to. I mean, those 8 steps of that Preach My Gospel teaches, how to begin teaching, just like talking with people, how to like influence or persuade people, was one of the biggest things. Obviously, getting along with companions, relationships, those were some of the most important life lessons for me.
Most extreme weather you experienced?
Most extreme weather was either that storm in Belleville or the heat in Catamarca, where it just got up to like 130 something degrees, and just any inch of shade you could get. Sometimes we find ourselves like side edging along a wall because there's a tiny bit, like a couple inches of shadow of shade there. So just the heat during the siestas when not even the dogs are awake and you're going out there. And that was probably the most intense weather.
What was one of the hardest things that you experienced on your missions?
Experiencing my pride, for real, for the first year or so. Just overcoming my pride of thinking I could do things on my own and in my own way, and that I was right, and my companion couldn't understand me, and I guess the hardest thing was trying to understand others rather than seeking to be understood. I mean, that was, just that pride of the first year or so. Getting over that was the hardest part for sure. The weather and all that really wasn't a big deal. It was just overcoming that emotional and spiritual difficulty of turning my life over to Jesus, and realizing the paradox of the more I bless others, the more I'm blessed. So,
what's the best advice you could give to a missionary just heading out?
Gratitude. Just look for the small things to like enjoy your mission. Remember that the smaller things like agendas and going out to work on time and the obedience are all means to the end of your purpose, which is bringing others to Jesus Christ, inviting them to accept the gospel. So as long as that's in your mind, I think you'll be happy as a missionary, and the happier you are, the better you'll be, and the more successful you'll be, and just the better outcome you'll have. So just gratitude and remembering your purpose.
And then finally, what's the best advice you could give to a returned missionary who's just getting home? Baby steps, as my friend Dr. Marvin would advise. Baby steps is, obviously that was the biggest thing that helped me through my pride at the beginning of my mission, was just tiny goals one at a time, and continuing to accept Jesus in the day, living day by day, not by because when I got home, I didn't feel a purpose in anything I did, no matter what, whether it be dating or school or like going to church or even reading my scriptures. I felt no purpose in it. So that was the hardest part. So I think once I came to just live day by day and find those daily victories in what I did, and giving the rest to Jesus, then that's when I was able to feel peace and feel purpose and feel good. My companions shaped my mission, and my companions shaped who I became and am. I had the best companions ever, and I'm extremely grateful for what each one of them individually taught me. I had a deaf and dumb companion on my mission that was super fun to tease. Just because he couldn't understand me, we'd pray. I'd get up and I'd come back 20 minutes later. He'd still be on his knees thinking that we were praying because he couldn't hear. And then I'd come back, and like tap on the shoulder. He'd like get up. I was like, oh, and then he'd give me a big hug, and just like it was super funny. Like, and lots of times it's frustrating, but it was so awesome to see how as we shared that common purpose, we like look at people and be like, that person like they need to join the church, and just like we kind of just like, because we shared that common purpose, the Lord was able to do awesome things. And had another companion that who I was with, who was probably my best friend on my mission, Elder Bate, that we shared a lot of really neat experiences, not necessarily with converts, but with each other, that were really cool in overcoming family problems. He had a dad that passed away the same week that my parents got divorced, and it was really cool to see his example in moving forward and focusing on Jesus and on others, even in a moment where he should have been, or maybe could have been, focusing on himself. And that strength that he had to keep going, and it was, I guess, there's a lot of strength that can come from companionship. To be vulnerable with your companion, to be humble with your companion, and intimate with your companion, not in a physical way, in an emotional and spiritual way, and there's great power in that, and I was able to see that on my mission, and I'm forever grateful for those companions, Elder Williams, who shaped my life, and who's this huge example of gratitude and optimism, and kind of people that I want to be around, because they're disciples of Jesus, and I guess I just know that that whatever problems are going on, with however many details there are in the background, in the context of those problems, whether it be in family or personal problems, or things back home, or just whatever, there's power to be felt, and support to be felt in the mission, with your companion, with your president, and especially with the Lord. And the mission is cool. Mission is cool in that way, because it provides that piece of service, that love that you have when you serve others. You can feel it in your heart no matter what is going on in your life, and that to me is awesome, and reason enough to go on a mission, to learn those things, because on the mission you're completely submerged in helping and focusing on others, and provides a cushion and some real love and real peace. So congratulations if you got your call to Cordoba. Obviously it's the coolest mission in the world, and it's that because it's your mission. I guess there's obviously a lot of experiences you'll have in Cordoba that will be unique to any other mission, but the coolest part of any mission is coming to know Jesus, and by doing so, coming to know yourself, and that's what's happened to me in my mission. I got to know, by focusing on others, I got to know who Jesus was, and who my Father was, and by doing so, I got to know better myself and my potential, and what I'm capable of with Him. I feel like there's a certain joy, a fullness of joy, that you can experience as you consecrate yourself to the work. And when there's a certain point in my mission where sacrifice I was able to look at as opportunity, and hardships as moments right before the blessings, and so many of those hard times became glorious times,
because of what Jesus made of me. And for that, I mean, there's nothing I'd rather have in exchange than that, is to know my Savior and to know that he can do anything through me and perform miracles. And oftentimes I just felt like a superhero, even though it wasn't me. I was being that little puppet, like a video game, just kind of like I felt like he was like controlling me, and through him I was just able to do, or through me he was just able to do anything, and we were able to see lots of miracles. So Cordoba is an awesome mission, and you're gonna love it.